I feel like I'm supposed to be against homosexuality, but I'm not.
If God created us, then He made homosexuality.
Some people have wondered if they're still accepted by God if they're gay or trans.
People are lost. They have no definition for what they should be looking for in marriage, in relationships, in understanding what their own sexuality is.
It's very popular amongst youth to make up their own sexuality title or their own gender title, so there really isn't a norm anymore.
I think one of the things that society today is elevating is that there are no rules, and so therefore the lack of rules creates a greater freedom.
Pastors are wrestling when they encounter a child in their youth group who says they're same-sex oriented, or they've got questions about their gender identity. Pastors are, they haven't had to encounter this much before, and seminary typically didn't prepare them for this.
We cannot have an institutional response. We've got to have an individual response, which means we have to be face-to-face with people, which is vulnerable.
Churches need to understand that this issue isn't going to go away, and we have the biblical truth to bring freedom to people in their lives and their sexuality and their gender identities. The conversation needs to be brought back to the image of God. Genesis chapter 1, what does it mean that we are created in God's image as men and women, and then how are we to walk that out on the earth in a way that's honoring to the Lord?
I think the church needs to be more vocal on what God created, is that God created man and woman in God's own image for the purpose of us experiencing more of who God is here in this world.
We as a church have got to learn how to understand what God's good gift of sexuality is and help teach it to a world that's looking for answers.
I think the church needs to gain understanding into the issues so they're not just a clanging gong. I think that the church needs to grow in love for the LGBT community because it's got to be out of the overflow of that kind of love.
Recognizing the God in you connects with the God in me, and therefore together we see more of who God is. That to me is holy sexuality.
Begin to understand and have a vision of themselves creating the image of God and that honors God with their sexuality. And that's our vision. That's what we're trying to communicate through Holy Sexuality at Transform Minnesota.